I'm Corbett Wall with DB Auction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, March the 2nd, brought to you in part by Rio Max. Calving season is here. Frustration, mud, not getting enough sleep, maybe spring snowstorms. You have enough challenges to worry about without having to worry about sick calves. Take the right road with Rio Max. Visit RioMax.net. Receipts crushed the feeder prices early in the week here on Monday. And of course the board didn't help, the board being down, and that just continues to be a disappointment, but we've seen that starting towards the end of last week there. But big runs in all your high volume Monday sales because we had the big cold snap there 2 weeks ago for the whole week, and hardly any sales held anywhere that week. And then we come back last week, we thought we were going to be back in full swing, and we just weren't quite ready to get back going again in full swing, and had a lot of light receipts again last week. But man, here they came on Monday, this Monday. Oklahoma City had nearly 13,000, Joplin had 10,000, some other sales around Sioux Falls Regional Livestock and Worthing, South Dakota, 6,100 head, Russell, Iowa, 4,300 head. All your big high volume sales on Monday had big sales, and it was more than what they had orders for. It just kind of crushed the prices down. And then of course we had a fading futures, cattle futures, both live cattle and feeder cattle. But you know, that just is part of the beast here, and a big reason that your futures faded, and another reason that your orders kind of faded is the fat cattle market's inability to break through 114 for the whole month of February. And it was just so frustrating to watch that. And each week, you know, we'd take 114 and then thinking that we're going to get more money the next week, looking up at spring live cattle futures prices in the 120s pretty deep. And then your packers would come out early in the week and offer that 114, which was steady with a week ago. Everybody thinking, well, they're offering steady money on Monday or Tuesday, that means we gained a buck or two. No, they just pull that back and keep teasing with it, breaking the board till finally you had to take the 114 again. Now we look up and we're in March, and nothing's in 120s anymore. And we just, you know, it just seems like a endless circle of doing this, like the Twilight Zone, that you never get paid. And I tell you what, I told you guys that we had some help coming with Deb Fisher's bill, your Cattle Market Transparency Act. I told you some things are about to start happening with that. Well, it's getting really fast. I tell you what, it's going to hit the fan here pretty darn quick, and we're going to look up and see which groups should have cattle included in their name or not. Because if you're not for this bill, you're not for cattlemen. And so I've heard word that bill is going to be introduced to the Senate this week. They're adding on her, Deb Fisher's office there. She's a Republican senator out of Nebraska. She is trying to get a few more sponsors on there. It's already got bipartisan support, but trying to get a few more sponsors on there. Then they're going to wrap that thing up and introduce it to the Senate. So it's time to get ready. It's time to start doing something. And I tell you what, you're going to get the blowback here pretty fast. It's going to be interesting to see where the blowback comes from. We're liable to hear something like fee fi fo fum. You know, who dares challenge our authority here from the big corporates? Whether it be your packers or your feeders. I mean, they're all one and the same, right? They're all pushed together there, but they're going to wonder who's challenging the authority. And so far, it's going to be the U.S. Cattlemen's Association saying, look down here, it's me, David. Have you seen my new slingshot? I tell you what, something's going to happen here, guys. And I'll tell you what, we've got the support to get it done. So it's time to do something now. You know, it's time to rush the Capitol with your phone calls and your emails telling your legislators, your representatives, your senators, that where you stand on it, how much it means to you, to get mandated minimum negotiated cash trade pushed through, to get a library to see what these sweetheart deals are that these corporate feeders have been getting, so you can kind of see how bad you've been getting screwed, and maybe give you some information that will help you try to get a deal for yourself, you smaller feeders, and to get some things pushed through here. To tear down some of this confidentiality cloud that we've been under so much, that's just been fogging out the transparency, being able to tell what's going on in the market. That's what this bill does. It does all those things, and I tell you what, it's got a lot of support, and we're going to get something done here. So decide which side you're on. Like I said, it's time to rush the Capitol, and I'm more than happy to incite the mob, or to help incite the mob here. But it's time to get this deal done, and we've got some big groups behind us. But on the call on Monday, we saw that U.S. Cattlemen's Association's Marketing Committee voted unanimously to support the Cattle Market Transparency Act that Deb Fischer has pushed through. Now we need some more organizations to lend their support. We've already got a bunch. And we've already got a lot of the senators already signed off on it, and we've got Republicans, we've got Democrats, we've got some big dogs. And on that U.S. Cattlemen's Association Marketing Committee, got some influential people on there. And they're throwing their hat in the ring, supporting that. As far as I can tell, there's no sellouts on that marketing committee. There's nobody that has conflicts of interest. There's no Packer sympathizers on there. So, and that's the problem with some of these other groups, is they have those. So it's time to get behind this deal, push it through. Just imagine if we were like we were in the last month here on 114. And then they start just putting together their captive supply cattle. Imagine if up in Iowa they had to meet 50% of their kill volume for the week. They had to be in a negotiated cash sale. They'd have to go to some auctions and buy some fat cattle. They'd have to go out and visit a feedlot and with hat in hand, ask them what they had for sale and what they'd be willing to take for them. Imagine that. Imagine in Kansas if we had a minimum mandate of like 35% of those big packing houses weekly volume. Whenever your feedlot manager said, no, I won't take the steady money, he doesn't have to just swallow hard knowing he's not going to talk to him again the rest of the week. No, he kicks his feet up on the desk, has another cup of coffee, and waits for them to call him. And that's what would happen here if they had to buy a certain amount of their kill for the week. And that's your major packing plants, guys, the ones that are big enough to report to mandatory price reporting. If they had to buy a minimum amount of that, and it was mandated in a negotiated cash weight, it would change everything. And if you guys can't see that, or you don't know enough about it, you need to look into that deal. But it's called the Cattle Market Transparency Act. 2020, I believe, but Deb Fischer is the author, sponsor, the pusher of it, and we're all in favor of her and her office and everybody that's sponsored onto that. Let's talk about your board on Monday to open the week on a down note. April live cattle futures down $1.02 at 118.97. Wasn't April live cattle up around 125 just the other day? I thought so. June live cattle down 92, 117.50. Going out from there, mostly down, but down 57 cents to up just a dime there, way on in your back months. How about March feeder cattle down $1.47 on a day when the grains were down pretty hard? And feeder cattle down $1.47, 137.20. April feeders down $1.45 at 141.12. Going out from there, and they were mostly down as much as 117, up as much as 50 cents, and that was on the farthest out traded month. How about your weighted average on last week's disappointing steady market? in your direct sales, negotiated 5-area feedlot sales, 67,800 head for the week, which was actually a little more than the previous week of 60,600, and about 10 less than the same week a year ago at 77,000 head. But we had a price spread on live steers and heifers from 112 and a quarter to 117, but mostly 114, and it was steady. And I'll tell you how unbelievably steady it was. Your weighted average on live steers throughout the entire 5-area feeding region was exactly the same as it was the previous week at 114.07. It's unbelievable how they can fix that. But let's talk about your dress sales. Your dress price range last week, steers and heifers from 178.5 to 183, mostly 180 to 182. Quite a bit of 182 late in the week, and that was a little bit of a push there in parts of the northern plains and in the Midwest there. But and that was mostly steady on your whole range trend there. But if you look at your weighted average on dressed steers, it was 180, 163, and that was $1.06 higher. We had a right to be a whole lot more higher than that, but just couldn't get it done. But most of all the trade happened in the northern plains. Iowa, 18,700 head. That's a heck of a movement for them. Nebraska, just short of 30,000. And Kansas and Texas both failed to reach enough sales, even for NCBA's 75% of a robust market scenario there, that they haven't talked a whole lot about for several months here because it was so ridiculously lame. That was what they were pushing instead of a mandated minimum negotiated cash trade. But Kansas only had 10,800 head. That wouldn't have done it. Texas only had 8,400 head. That wouldn't have done it. So that would have tripped more triggers, and we've tripped enough triggers in the last several months since they announced that ridiculous plan that would even push them NCBA to get in support of mandated minimum negotiated trade. So you members there, remind them of that and tell them we need to get something done here. How about nationwide negotiated trade? 84,200 head negotiated nationwide compared to formula sales of 246,300 head. That's what we're fighting against, guys. And then, but one good thing on here, which kind of surprised me, but of that 84,200 head nationwide negotiated, only about 8.5% of them, less than 7,200 head, were for the 15 to 30 day delivery. Now, granted, they did sign a lot of contracts and did do a lot of basis deals, but it wasn't really a cash negotiated sale, not to be picked up for 2 to 4 weeks. But a lot of basis trades happened last week as guys in the northern plains especially got very frustrated, seeing that there was no way they were going to get close to that 120, and then they started offering some plus basis off June board and things like that would allow them to reach that. The heck of it is, those that take that bait, they prevent the whole rest of the industry from ever reaching that point when we get to the spring and when we get to the second quarter. Box beef cutout values were lower for the first time here for quite a while. So packers will be screaming about that. But you look at choice cuts on Monday afternoon, 239.03, down $1.50. Selects 227.64, down 209. So they have been pushing those through in a time of year when normally they can't do that, but they've been pushing those higher, but finally fell under some pressure there. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DB auction. Late in the day on Monday at 137.16. That was down 65 cents based on an 800-pound steer from the end of last week. I talked a little bit already about the receipts and the big sales. Let's talk about the price trends. Oklahoma National Stockyards, Oklahoma City, like I said, 12,800 head. Feeder cattle there are $1 to $4 lower. And stockers and calves were selling steady to firm. We kind of figured the trend would be that way. Didn't know that your feeders would be that much lower, and your stocker cattle only steady to firm there. Joplin Regional Stockyards, about 10,000 head there, and through the mid-session they had called that market just about steady. Sioux Falls Regional Livestock, 6,100 head there. Your bulk of your cattle sold, steers sold $3 to $7 lower, and heifers steady to $3 lower, except for some particular weights of stockers, mostly the 450 to 500 pounders, and they were some higher. And there's just not going to be very many light stockers out there, guys. Why? Because not nearly enough of us fall calf. So that they're just not there. They're not available. Guys are wanting to fill orders to turn out on spring grass, which is going to be here before you know it, and there's just not enough of them. And at the same time, we're complaining about no vacancy, no room in our feedlots right now. Why? Because we have too many spring calvers. Our infrastructure of our commercial cattle in this country is not set up to take 75% of them all at once, and then only 25% when they really want them. How about Russell, Iowa, 4,300 head there. Steer calf steady, feeder steers steady to 4 lower. Your heifer calves were $2 to $4 higher. Feeder heifers about steady. Talk about some stick out deals. I tell you what, I have to tell you, to be frank with you, wasn't a lot of stick out deals, because we've been seeing some spots of some pretty handsome prices. Even though we haven't been able to push through on your fat cattle trade and really get a higher feeder cattle market throughout, but we've been seeing spots with farmer feeders, spots with some reputation type cattle that's been really pushing higher. But the best prices that I saw by far on Monday come out of Platte Valley Livestock in Gearing, Nebraska there. It was likely on some cattle that had some hellacious condition or had programs on them. But I was working a bull sale on Monday, didn't get back to start this report until really late. Wasn't anybody to call, but they had, maybe it was because they were black baldies. My favorite. I know you guys in Nebraska, you like to sort the black baldies off the blacks, but I tell you what, maybe it was because it was a string of black baldies, and then they were just so good that the guys couldn't resist bidding on them. But a big long string of those cattle, 105 head of them, weighed 550 at $188. How you like that price on some black baldies? And then your Zactran top coat for the day, same kind of cattle, 84 head of them black baldies, weighed 641 pounds at $169. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.